We're going to talk about watercolor, what a watercolor wash means, and some different methods and applications. So the first thing is I have here a liquid concentrate. It's basically liquid watercolor. I also have the tubes that we can take tubes and we can squeeze the tubes out. This is a drier method, but very condensed colors, very much of a concentrate. And then I also have the sets that some of you guys will have seen before if you used in class. And you take the water and you mix it with that. So just for the demonstration purpose, because it's a little easier for me here to show you, we're going to talk about the watercolor and the washes. So first thing is if I have this here and I take this down, this is watercolor paper, and I just do this. What happens, it dries very quickly because this is a porous surface and it dries very quickly. So your edges are going to dry rather quick and you're not going to get a nice even blend. So what we're going to talk about now is we're going to talk about something called a watercolor wash. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take plain water, and it can have a little bit of a color, it doesn't matter. I just take plain water and I just wet the paper. All right, so in this case I'm going for a blue tint, so I'll tint the page blue. But all I'm doing is just working and getting the page wet. Now the reason is if I do that same stroke that I did a few seconds ago over here into the water, this is creating a wash. So if I do that same stroke, notice what happens, the colors blend. So if I want to create a nice even background, I can get it with this, with the watercolor wash. If I tried to do this without the water, it would not blend so well. All right, so now once I have that watercolor wash as opposed to dry on wet, this is wet on wet. Now what I have is a lot of other methods I can use. One of the key things we take over here is if we take salt, this is regular table salt, if I take salt and sprinkle the salt onto the watercolor, what happens is the salt absorbs that, and after it dries and you wipe it off, it creates a really cool effect. And if you look here, this is the salt effect. So you see all the little areas where the watercolor was absorbed into the salt. I could also take plastic wrap. And if I take plastic wrap and put it on top of it, almost like you're doing a faux painting at home on the walls, I take that and I get these really kind of cool grooves. And I can also dip a toothbrush into the watercolor and kind of splatter it on, and that creates another effect. So the idea with this is to show you the difference between a dry on wet, which is the one on the top, and also the wet on wet, which is called a wash, and then adding some of the other materials to that to create some cool special effects.